up, guys? This is Kevin Lindsay from the Opinionated Geeks. I'm here today going to be reviewing two movies that I got to see. One I got to see Monday night, and this is the one I'm going to review right now. It is Despicable Me 3 and the Minions. Anyway, we went to go see this movie Monday night before the 4th of July fireworks show, and we took our daughter to see this movie. And I personally like the Minions movies and the Despicable Me franchise. Really solid movies, really good, funny movies. Steve Carell is great as Gru, and of course the Minions. Absolutely love the Minions. You can pick these up at McDonald's, by the way, right now. But anyway, so I was super excited to see the movie, and I have to say, right offhand, it was definitely the weakest out of the three. And that is including the three beforehand, which is Despicable Me 1, Despicable Me 2, and the Minions. So this one is the Despicable Me 3. You could call it 4, but I think they're trying to separate the Minions franchise from the Despicable Me franchise. Anyway, whatever it has, we have Steve Carell returning. We have Kristen Wiig returning as his now wife, Lucy. And then we have, of course, the three girls, Agnes, Margot, and Edith. They are all back in it, and the Minions are back in it. And we have a new villain, Brat, who is, I enjoyed that character the most out of probably all the characters save the Minions, because it was just really fun, and he was really well developed, and he was the most developed character out of a story that, in my opinion, was not developed great. If I was to say what I enjoyed the most out of the movie, I loved there were some funny moments in the movie. There were some good things. Like, I love that Gru wanted to still be good, and how that kind of transpires is he's after Brad, the bad guy, and can't catch him, and Gru and Lucy end up getting fired from the anti-villains agency. So they end up getting fired. He still wants to be good. Turns out he has a long-lost twin brother who is Drew, also voiced by Steve Carell. And Drew is actually on the opposite. He wants to be good, or he was good, I'm sorry, and then wants to turn to a life of crime. So you have these two that kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. Anyway, what I liked about the movie, I like Brat, the villain. He's stuck in the 80s. He was a child actor, and once he got hit puberty and whatnot, he kind of lost all of his acting skills, whatever you want to call it, and he went into irrelevance like many child actors do. So then he turns to a life of crime, and from there on out, that's who they're chasing. So he's trying to steal a diamond. I loved that character. I liked the dynamic between Lucy and the three girls. She's trying to figure out how to be a mom, and she doesn't like to tell the three girls no. And then you have that kind of riff going on there between the three girls and the mom, and she's trying to figure out her way. Groot, solid character. Steve Carell again voicing Groot. It's just solid. I'm not a huge fan of Steve Carell, but I like his acting job here. Some of the things that I didn't enjoy, some of the things that I didn't really care for, I thought the story was weak. I thought that it wasn't developed exactly good, I guess you could say. Not like the first Despicable Me, not like the second one. It was definitely the weakest out of the Despicable Me movies. Another thing that I didn't care for was there wasn't that much Minion time. Like, there just wasn't. As soon as we walked out of the theater and we got to talking about the movie, I was disappointed that they weren't featured a little bit more, because the moments that they were on there, they were funny. And it was kind of sad not to see them as much throughout. You have the main 2 or 3 Minions, and then there's the whole almost army of the rest of them, and they just aren't featured. I don't want to spoil it, and I don't want to give it away, but they really aren't featured as much. So wasn't a fan of that. Definitely, again, a weak story. Just trying to think, as far as parents, if I was to tell anything, there was no language in it that I can remember at all. There was a couple of crude moments that I want to point out. There's a moment where Brat uses some kind of gun thing and shoots Gru with it, and it takes off Gru's clothes. And one of the things he has is like gum. He uses this bubble gum, and it's like the really, really chewy, you know, the big double bubble gum. And basically, it, like, the clothes come off, and immediately the gum is like right behind it. So Groot is hanging from something, and he's like dangling, and he's naked, and it's like a G-string is what it looks like that he's hanging off of. There's that, and then I was actually missed this part, but apparently it happens to Brat too. So that's what Rachel told me. She was telling me that. So just a couple of crude moments that I didn't care for. If you have a young kid, you might want to be wary of that. But overall, I think that kids between 7, 8, 9, 10, in that range, they'll probably like the movie. It had a hard time keeping my 4-year-old's attention, and we talked about that too. The Despicable Me movies prior, Kimber loves. She absolutely loves. They hold her attention well. This one didn't. So if you have a 4-year-old, 3-year-old, 5-year-old that love the first ones, this one might not hold their attention. And I do kind of give that to the fact to the story wasn't that developed, and there was a lack of Minions, because she loves the Minions too. So if I was to give a grade on this movie, I would give it a B-. I think it's a solid movie. I wouldn't go to theaters and see it. If I had a chance to again, I would wait till it come out on DVD or Netflix or whatever. I wouldn't go to the theaters and see it. I looked at Rotten Tomatoes. It's gotten good scores. Critics fairly, you know, they're fairly okay with it. They definitely say it's the weakest out of the Despicable Me franchise. But I really think that this should end the Despicable Me trilogy. I feel like it should end it. I don't think it will. I feel like they're going to try to keep pumping movies out. And maybe if they come along with Despicable Me 4, it'll have a little bit better story and a better dynamic. But anyway, overall, it was a solid movie. Not something I would go and see in theaters again. Kind of disappointed by that. Received a lot of hype, and I know it's done well in theaters. It has. So, anyway, just remember, parents, there's nothing language-wise as far as I can find out, but there are those 2 crude moments. So be warned before you go in there. Again, like the movie. Decent storyline, not strong, decent. Had its funny moments, but overall it was meh. So anyway, that's it with the review. Might come at you a little bit later with a spoiler-filled review and really break down the story. But as far as a basis and if you want to go see it or if you should see it, that's my quick take. Thanks, guys. Have a great week.